This is CNN.
I'm making the movies I want to make it. It's not like I say, what is the next controversial thing I could do for my film? I just try to make interesting, thought-provoking, entertaining films.
I think it's a movie that can uplift a lot of people. You know, I think it really is a movie about right and wrong and not about black and white, and I think Spike really hit it on the button this time.
As a director, I think Spike Lee is one of the most overrated filmmakers working in America today.
I'm gonna handle it.
This is a rough one.
No, I got it.
Rough.
I got it.
This has been the roughest of the rough.
Watch me work.
He lacks that moral commitment to use his words to do the right thing.
People, please, if we don't stop this, stop it now. We're going to do something we're going to regret the rest of our lives.
Doctor,
Come on, what?
always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
Welcome to a Both Sides special. Tonight we talk to one of the most controversial people in the country, successful filmmaker Spike Lee. You know, at the start of the show we asked each week kind of both sides. There's this intense scrutiny of you, talk about you, controversy around you in the film world. Why?
Well, I think I'm the new generation of African-American filmmakers. I was the first one out there. And as you know, any successful African-American has to be 10 times as better. We have to leap more obstacles, more hurdles than anybody else. So therefore, it just makes sense to me that when you put your work out there, you're going to be scrutinized under a magnifying, glass from top to bottom. But it doesn't bother me. I'm an artist, and I'm not trying to hide my work or hide my views or my opinions. I stand behind everything I do.
Basically about breakthrough, you're not backing up, you're not going to surrender.
Never.
Let's take a look at a little of what's causing the latest controversy around Spike Lee. Scenes depicting the life of black nationalist Malcolm X. The latest from the lens of director Spike Lee. Even before Lee began to shoot, there was controversy.
I doubt if in 2 hours one could do a total and complete film of Malcolm. But what Imam Baraka and Elambe Brath was concerned about was that it's a true depiction rather than some sensational mirage of what white America would like to see.
Lee is no stranger to controversy. He burst on the scene in 1985, the low budget but highly praised She's Gotta Have It. It caught fire. Soon the outspoken Lee himself began drawing fire and adding fuel to it.
I said, for all you enlightened human beings who feel I'm a racist and anti-Semitic, you kiss my black ass 2 times. Then the movie began.
I think as a public figure, as someone who participates in all kinds of public controversies, Spike Lee is a lot more interesting than he is as a director. He says outrageous things, he taunts people, he creates all kinds of interesting controversies swirling around him. I don't think there's that kind of interest or satisfaction that much in his movies anymore.
That's a cut.
But the 35-year-old Lee says he just wants to be left alone to do what he believes to be his mission.
Your responsibility is to be the best filmmaker you can be, and also at the same time I feel you should try to employ as many black people as you can in your films, and not just in front of the camera but behind the camera. Try to groom people, try to train people, and try to bring as many people along with you as you can. Director Spike Lee, our only guest for this Both Sides special. This bit of controversy, you're not running from it. You're under constant attack.
I mean, people think that I plan this stuff. I do not plan this. This latest thing with the Rodney King footage, it's a joke.
What happened?
Well, I want to use the Rodney King footage for the opening of the movie, the opening credits of Malcolm X. We intercut those 4 killer cops in Los Angeles and beating down Rodney King. We intercut that with the American flag burning and it forms an X. So we had made a deal with George Holliday's lawyers, They signed the contract, they got the check, and now they're trying to sue us for infringement of copyright. First, they wanted $250,000 on top of the money we already gave. Now they want $450,000. And George Holliday's saying that he fears that the use of the footage in the film will incite more riots. First of all, the footage did not incite the riots. It was a decision by those idiots in the Simi Valley jury that decided, I won't even call it riots, uprising. So he's trying to posture that he's worried about mankind. At the same time, we have letters that he wrote saying that he doesn't care about charity, he just wants to get paid. So in actuality, George Holliday is pimping Rodney King.
But you know, you said, I mean, it seemed if you got to cut a deal into the contract that you're pretty much on course. I mean, is he asking for another contract?
Well, they know that the film's coming out November 20th, but the prints had to be made before that, and so with the countersuit, we asked the judge. He wants to hear the case till October 13th, and
but
it has to be resolved before then.
Is that bit essential to a film about Malcolm?
Well, it's not going to make or break the film, but this is where I want to open up the film. But
then it seems as if, you know, given all of the cross burnings and the violence around Malcolm's life and death, that to spend that much time on Halliday is almost a diversionary from the project.
We're talking about 40 seconds, Jesse. The opening credit sequence is 2 minutes. The movie is 3 hours and 21 minutes, so it's not spending a lot of time on Rodney King. We're talking about 30 to 45 seconds out of a 3 hour and 21 minute movie.
You know, the other thing that intrigued me as we've known each other for a long time is that you focus on the anger that comes from people's hurt and the hatred and the bitterness. And yet you are so successful as if as a kind of private, optimistic, successful, well-educated Spike Lee, as this kind of public angry guy.
Well, that image is one that's been fostered by the white media. Right now I'm on the cover of Esquire magazine, and the title of that article says, in big letters, twice, Spike Lee hates your cracker ass. So, I mean, that's the way...
Is that a quote?
No, it's not. It's not a quote, but they make it seem like it's a quote. I'm on this month's Esquire magazine. I'm on the cover. The title article is Spike Lee hates your cracker ass.
But you had said something like kiss your black ass twice.
Jesse, that's two different things.
Did you say that?
Spike Lee, I hate crackers.
No, about kiss my black ass twice.
That was supposed to be at the beginning of Jungle Fever. But that has nothing to do with an article about me saying the title article being Spike Lee hates your cracker ass. So, I mean, all the time, here's the type of question. I had an article, lady asked me, do you have any white friends? No white filmmaker in the history of the world has ever been asked to have any black friends. I mean, that's where I'm, the position.
What I'm trying to really draw out of this is that there is the kind of spat with the Italians during that movie. Then the spat with the Jews, and now the spat about the film. I mean, it seems that these controversies, are they following you or are you nurturing them?
No, I don't nurture them. I mean, the whole thing with me being anti-Semitic came out of this article this lady wrote for the New York Times because of the two guys own the club. Like there'd never been any crooked Jewish jazz club owners in the world. All of a sudden, anti-Semitic. So that's another thing, another label I had to deal with.
But she also said that you really hate women. What was she suggesting there?
What people have to realize is that Martin Scorsese, Cape Fear, the character that Robert De Niro plays is psychotic. Does that mean that Martin Scorsese is psychotic? You have to really understand that the characters in my film are not necessarily speaking for me.
Do you think, for example, that when a lot of black women suggest that women are put down, black women are put down rather rudely, rather crudely, that is just your artistic expression, or do you have some responsibility with your artistry to, in fact, lift black women to a higher level?
I mean, Jesse, I've done 5 films, so if anybody's going to accuse me of downgrading black women, I would like them to be specific and say what character and what film. I mean, I get praised all the time by women who like the depiction of Enola Darling, and she's got to have it. But there you go. Also have another section of black women who think that I was saying all black women are loose, and
which is not your point.
It's not the point. Enola Darling was not meant to represent every single black woman in this country.
Seems to me that you are quite ready to condemn sometimes just a broad spectrum of America. On the other hand, how many?
Who am I condemning?
Well, I mean, the point is you attack the negative. It's there to be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what comes off of that is a kind of cynical view toward life. It's very difficult to survive here. And yet you have this enormous talent, and you have a market for it. And you've done quite well at it in the country. Does that give you some sense of warmth about the country?
Well, I think that if you look at the nature, the spirit of African American, we're very optimistic people. I mean, even through slavery, I mean, if we weren't optimistic, we would have burnt this country down 10 times a long time ago. I mean, I think that's our nature, to be optimistic.
So you in fact are driven by a sense of hope.
Yes, and not for me, for at least my grandchildren, that that we will and will lead that second citizen class.
You know, one thing I want to get to before we take our break is that you have raised the level of affirming blackness to a new level, the sense of give back. You've challenged athletes publicly to give back, to reinvest. There is one accredited black filmmaking school in the country that makes film. It is Howard.
Mm-hmm.
You choose to teach at Harvard, not at Howard. Why?
Well, Jesse, Howard never asked me. Morehouse never asked me. Hampton never asked me. No black institution in the United States has ever asked me to teach. It was Dr. Henry Gates who took over the Afro-Am department at Harvard. He asked me to come to Harvard.
Did you go out of your way to ask them?
He asked me.
No.
I never taught before. I've wanted to teach. I mean, after I made School Days, Morehouse, I mean, they tried to wipe it off the book. I even went there. Now I'm on the board of trustees now. But there was a time, though, after School Days, Spike Lee didn't go here.
Yeah. So there's no sense of contradiction there.
There's not a sense of contradiction. I mean, I'm sad for my people. A lot of times we need the stamp of approval from white people. Once the white folks get the stamp of approval, then we're okay.
Oh, what?
I'd have loved to teach at Howard, Morehouse. They didn't ask.
Make an application. We're going to come right back and see if Spike Lee still wants you to take at least one day out of school to watch his new movie about Malcolm X. We'll be right back.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Welcome to Reliable Sources, where we turn a critical lens on the media. I'm Bernard Cal. The lineup for this week's edition is the President Play.
I knew Malcolm. I will tell you, Spike Lee is no Malcolm, to use the cliche, because Malcolm would never have asked black kids with the poverty of educational opportunities to play hooky and cut school.
Welcome back to Both Sides Special, a one-on-one discussion with film director Spike Lee. Ennis challenges your marketing plan.
Well, first of all, it's not a marketing plan. Second of all, that statement was taken totally out of proportion. First of all, who says that education has to take place within the four walls of the school? If anybody reads the autobiography of Malcolm X said he thought that everybody should be locked up at least for a year because that's how he educated himself, in prison. Second of all, in elementary school, I had to go see Gone with the Wind. That was a class trip. And there's no reason in the world...
So it is within that context, you're talking about field trips as a marketing device?
Yes, also. And I also said, I think that this film is an event. I think it's going to be an event for African Americans in this country and to make an impact on Hollywood. I said that I asked African Americans to take the day off work, for parents to take their children out of school, and go see the film that day.
That's your real point.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Since this film has been so publicized, people are wearing X's. A lot of people think it's 10. A lot of people think it's excuse. People don't quite know what X means anymore. 3 hours and 30-minute film.
21 minutes.
3:21 for the film. What point are you trying to make? I mean, there are these several phases of Malcolm. There's Malcolm, who was, of course, born in a very tough situation, father killed in very questionable circumstances, and then grew up kind of tough in street life and pimping and all that. He got caught in all of that stuff.
We show them all. That is why the film is the length it is. And that is why people must really see Denzel Washington's performance, because he does the whole range from when Malcolm is Detroit Red, his prison, when he comes under tutelage Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he raises the nation, his break with Mr. Muhammad, when he goes to Mecca, and to when he's shot down.
During that period, say from 55 to 65, the real high moments of the advancement of black liberation was the Rosa Parks and the refusal to go to the back of the bus, and Dr. King emerged in that context.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm did not identify with that.
Right.
And 6 of the students, they sat in and went to jail. The result was a march on Washington, which he criticized.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, a public accommodations bill to break down apartheid. Then the right to vote. Now, he was not a part of any of these great movements in that period. What, in spite of missing all of that, what's the redeeming value of Malcolm to you?
See, that same argument, Jesse, I mean, I love Thurgood Marshall, but I think he made an ignorant statement. And there's also this columnist, Carl Rowan, he wrote a statement recently that says, Malcolm X is not worthy to be a hero to young African-American kids.
What do you see as the redeeming feature of Malcolm that makes him worthy?
There's nothing more concrete than teaching the people to love themselves. Teaching people that black is beautiful, that they are not inferior. And that's what Malcolm did. And I don't care if he didn't sit in, if he didn't have any laws legislated, he had black folks thinking and loving themselves.
So fundamentally, this urge for self-love, for a higher self-regard,
knowledge of self,
is what is the driving theme in Malcolm's life to you?
Yes. In this film, that's how we depicted it.
We'll be right back to talk more about this exciting film, controversial film that apparently the people really do need to see. We'll be right back, more with One-on-One with Spike Lee. Welcome back to Both Sides with a one-on-one conversation with filmmaker Spike Lee. Frank, you drove this point about Malcolm really meant this self-affirmation. Now, I grew up during that period. I had to go to the back of the bus or go to jail. Dr. King made the position better that we walk in dignity than ride in jail, walk in dignity than ride in shame. It's about self-affirmation, and that the way to break down these barriers was massive direct action. Affirm, going to jail, but going to jail on your own agenda rather than someone else's agenda. We were successful. I mean, we now take for granted public accommodations, open housing, access to schools of our choice, the right to vote. I mean, all that was led by Dr. King. Malcolm essentially participated in none of that. But that movement was about affirmation too, and in a way that actually changed the laws. Do you think that's important?
It's very important. I think that, I mean, I'm never going to negate what Dr. King did. He chose his route, and Malcolm didn't win his route. I think they both wanted the same goal, but they have different philosophies. You know, when Malcolm was shot down, I think that both of them had several overtures where I remember Ozzie Davis telling me they're supposed to have a meeting. So I think they would eventually have gotten together.
But I'm trying to see where were they going programmatically. I know there's a very famous picture of Malcolm standing with a gun, you know, looking out of the window.
Right.
And the captain by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most young blacks get the impression that he was standing there to defend himself against white people, right? I guess he was waiting to defend himself against black people. So it kind of, it gives the impression he's about prepared to fight white aggression. he's about to fight in the black controversy. I mean, so I'm trying to figure out what programmatic thrust do you glean from Malcolm that would speak to today's young black male?
Well, I think that when people come out of this theater, they're going to be inspired. First of all, they will notice...
I mean, to do what?
To lift themselves up. That people can be spiritually uplifted.
To vote politically?
To vote, to educate themselves. I mean, they're going to see how much Malcolm put on education.
With more young black males in college than in jail, 4 times more than South Africa, I think his presence in redefining manhood, fight back, resistance will have some impact upon this generation's lifestyle?
Well, I think that I don't necessarily equate manhood with fighting back. I mean, that's not the way I see it.
What will be his redeeming value to the youth who watch this movie?
I think Ozzie Davis put it best in the eulogy. He said Malcolm was a shining black prince, our manhood. And when the young black men see this film, I think they're going to be deeply affected by it. And all their actions will be affected by it, too.
We'll be right back. More with Spike Lee. We'll be right back.
Something about you.
About me?
Uh-huh.
Good or bad?
I haven't figured it out yet.
And that's the double truth. Fight the power. Fight the power.
One-on-one with Spike Lee. Spike, a month from now, President election 1992. Give us some advice.
So all get down on our knees and pray.
Are you going to fish or vote?
Am I going to vote?
Yes.
I'm going to vote.
Who are you going to vote for?
I'm going to vote.
Who are you going to vote for? You got to give it. You have impact. You work for Dave Dinkins. You work for Sharpton. You work for voter registration. Now it's
I'm going to vote. But
young America looking at you. Spike, what do you see in your crystal ball?
I'm going to vote, but I'm not going to publicly endorse any candidate.
So you're just going to be kind of remain neutral?
I'm not neutral, but I mean, for me, it's a lesser of two evils.
So you do not see any hope in the campaign?
Well, I think the hope is that there's a whole lot of, I think the biggest impact we could have is on the local levels, a lot of congressional seats.
But you do think that we must vote?
Got to. Got to.
I want to thank you tonight, Spike Lee, for this endearing, private, personal conversation.
Nick's going to get you this year.
The Bulls will defeat them again and again and again. Thanks for joining us for this Both Sides special. A one-on-one discussion with movie maker Spike Lee. We'll see you next week.
For a transcript, send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 1-303-831-9000.
An objective analysis.